NASA TV. Good morning from Mission Control Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room as we begin our coverage of today's spacewalk by two members of the Expedition 65 crew who will venture outside the Russian segment of the complex to dismantle equipment on the venerable Pirs docking compartment in preparation for its undocking and disposal later this year to complete 2 decades of service at the orbital outpost. Pirs's departure will set the stage for the arrival of the large Nyoka multipurpose laboratory module at the Earth-facing port of the Russian segment of the station, launch of that module no earlier than July 15th. More on all of that as our coverage moves along throughout the course of the overnight hours. At this hour, Roscosmos cosmonauts Oleg Novitskiy and Pyotr Dubrov are suited up in their Russian Orlan spacesuits in the Poisk module airlock, having completed procedures to pre-breathe pure oxygen that has cleansed their blood of any residual nitrogen, preventing any chance of decompression sickness or the bends from occurring as they step out into the vacuum of space a few minutes from now. The start of this spacewalk, the first for both Novitskiy and Dubrov, is scheduled at the time of hatch opening, about 20 or so minutes from now. Unlike a U.S. spacewalk out of the Quest airlock at the International Space Station, Russian spacewalk elapsed time is measured from hatch open to hatch close. We'll discuss today's spacewalk in detail in a moment. Here in Mission Control, today's spacewalk will be monitored by the Orbit 1 team of flight controllers under the guidance of Flight Director Rebecca Wingfield, fresh off of her stint as the lead flight director for the previous increment, Expedition 64. She's joined on console today by spacecraft communicator Christina Cook. At the top of your screen, a veteran of 6 spacewalks herself and more than 42 hours of spacewalking time in the void of space. She'll be talking to the station crew members about everything not involved in today's spacewalk over the next 7 hours or so. The spacewalk itself is being controlled by Russian flight controllers across the pond at the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow. You're looking at a live view of that cavernous flight control room from a camera on the balcony of the Mission Control Center in Korolyov.
I can see the gap spanner. Yes, and that's where you will rehook, reconnect the adjustable tether hook. Copy. Okay, my tools are a bit in the way. You can go back here a little bit along the cutter and along the wing nut, wing screw. Yes, I see it. Okay, it's released now. Right shoot range is now secure. Remating the adjustable range to the gap spanner right now. I got it. Oleg, do you feel the cooling? Yes, I have coolant circulating. Very good. Pyotr, how about yourself? Report your cooling status. Yes, I can feel the coolant circulating. Very good. Both tethers secured on the outside EV handrails and secured to BSRTM.
Pyotr Dubrov outside of the Poisk airlock. Wearing the suit, the Orlan spacesuit bearing the blue stripes, he'll be joined momentarily by Oleg Novitskiy.
Okay, we are completely outside the station. Congratulations. And also reconnect your tether to the gap spanner. Your fixed length tether. And I will try to get the sealed container closer to the exit. Wait,
I have a
Alex.
visual on the handrail. I have a hold on it. And I think we should install it now. Oleg, why don't you hold it while I rehook myself to the middle handrail? No problem, buddy. And that hook will probably have to be rehooked because it's going to be in the way eventually. The bend radius is really a limiting factor. We can try to put it around on Oleg's side, but I don't know.
Oleg Novitskiy on the left, Pyotr Dubrov opening up a thermal insulation panel on the Zarya module. He's on your right. The International Space Station entering an orbital sunrise over the South Atlantic, moving from southwest to northeast. Will skirt up the east coast of the continent of Africa, just to the east of Johannesburg.
Main panel, and then find the cable that goes beyond to the connector plate. We are actually tagging on it. See, the handle shows open. The bolts have been all removed. So it seems like it just that it's something is holding it through inside. You may have to use a cutter to try to pry it open. What about the pressure inside? The pressure should have been released even before. Are there any other bolts possibly that we have overseen? No other bolts.
Well, if I reach for the tether, then I cannot reach with the connector to the plate. Okay, got it.
They're moving to the handrail.
And I got the container. And the adjustable tetheret. All right, both hooks and the safety tether of the pressurized container are connected to the gap spanners. Copy. Piotr, how much space do you need? How far should I get away? Well, I can move for up 40 centimeters. Let me stand by, and you can get a bit closer. All right, I'm letting it go. Boom, and get there. Yes, but then I will have to let the gap scanner go. You can connect to 5034. Well, Oleg, the best option is to accept the hook of the safety tether from Piotr and then connect it to container. All right, you mean secure the container? Yes. Container. I translated to the other side of the strela boom, so I avoid the target. Copy. It's not easy to follow the lanyard. It is wobbly. Not easy to control your translation.
I'm going by the PHO area. Copy.
Хотя идет тяжелее уже, да, чувствуется. Оно почти сложено на самом деле. Ты откроешь клапан FP9 и как мы
So you will open
состыкованные разъемы.
Flap F9, and you will need to find the necessary connectors. Then you will demate the course cable. In the meantime, Oleg will be traveling to DC-1 to the course restraint plates.
This is the 238th spacewalk in support of space station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades, and the first of 3 spacewalks to be conducted by the Expedition 65 crew members over the next 2.5 weeks. June 16th and June 20th, Father's Day, we'll see European Space Agency flight engineer Thomas Pesquet and NASA flight engineer Shane Kimbrough emerge from the Quest airlock of the International Space Station for a pair of spacewalks to install the first 2 IROSA solar arrays. IROSA is the acronym for ISS Roll-Up Solar Arrays. They are being launched this Thursday from the Kennedy Space Center in the trunk of the Cargo Dragon on the SpaceX CRS-22 resupply mission to the International Space Station. Launch scheduled at 1:29 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. The weather forecast appears to be favorable. Docking to take place in the wee hours of Saturday, June 5th, to the space-facing port on the Harmony module of the International Space Station. On June 11th, the station's robotic arm, Canadarm2, will reach around and extract that pair of solar arrays from the trunk of the Cargo Dragon and temporarily stow them on the truss of the complex in advance of that first spacewalk by Pesquet and Kimbrough to install the arrays. They'll both be installed on the P6 truss of the International Space Station, not to replace the solar arrays, but rather to augment the power supply for 2 of the 8 power channels on the outpost. There will be 2 more sets of solar arrays, 2 more pairs of these roll-up solar arrays to be launched on future SpaceX missions and installed on subsequent spacewalks in 2022. One by one, Novitskiy and Dubrov are disconnecting antenna cables for the Corps' automated rendezvous system that has linked the Piers docking compartment to the Zvezda service module over the course of the past 20 years.
To secure the covers.
This is Mission Control Houston, 4 hours, 17 minutes into this morning's spacewalk. Cosmonauts Oleg Novitskiy and Pyotr Dubrov making their way through the timeline as they continue disconnecting antenna cables from the Piers docking compartment and reconnecting those cables to hardware on the Zvezda service module associated with the Corps' automated rendezvous system. This all part of the decommissioning of the Piers, which was launched in September of 2001 as a Russian vehicle docking port and airlock for Russian-based spacewalks. Piers will be undocked via the ISS Progress 77 cargo ship that is currently attached to Piers on the Earth-facing port of the Russian segment of the station, and Progress's engines then will be used to deorbit Piers, sending both Progress and Piers into the Earth's atmosphere where they will burn up harmlessly over the Pacific Ocean. That will all occur just a few days after the launch of the brand new Naoka multipurpose laboratory module, the MLM, that has been under construction and is now in final integrated testing at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. It will launch on a Proton rocket from Baikonur no earlier than mid-July on an 8-day trip. It will take that long to phase to the International Space Station, where Russian flight controllers will have a long opportunity to check out its systems and declare it healthy before Naoka makes an automated docking to the same Earth-facing port to which the Piers docking compartment is currently attached.
This angle reflector is in my way. I cannot apply enough pressure on the connector so it enters the Lirka clip. Alex, are you here? Are you close? Yes. Okay, I'll give it one more try. You need assistance, Pyotr? Well, not really.
Уголковый отражатель, который у меня за правым плечом, как-то временно
Unless you could move the angle reflector somewhere that's on my right shoulder side.
Approachability to the hook.
Олег, ты возьмешь карабин, чтобы подстраховать контейнер на оператора. Когда будешь готов, перестраховать.
Go ahead and rehook the tether that you have right now on the container. Once you let us know that the new hook has been installed and secured on your side of the container, then Piotr will do the same on his side. Piotr, do you have a hold of it? I'm sort of not letting it go, but not specifically have a good hold on it. I hear you, Moscow. That's why I'm asking Piotr if he has got a hold on it before I rehook.
Just a few minutes shy of the 5-hour mark in this morning's spacewalk. Novitskiy and Dubrov are in the process of releasing the temporarily stowed container housing the old, now discarded fluid flow regulator unit that was removed from the Zarya module early in the spacewalk today and replaced with a new unit. It's in that container right over Dubrov's head along the side of the Poisk module. It will be jettisoned aft of the Zvezda service module with no potential for recontacting the International Space Station. And the cosmonauts report that they have jettisoned the container. You now can see it as it moves away from the International Space Station aft of the Zvezda service module. This trajectory designed to prevent any potential for recontacting the station.
So I didn't want to hit it. Copy. Oleg, can you tilt your head a little bit so we can see the view? And we just got the video back.
Молодцы. По-моему, вполне больше полуметра в секунду.
Good job. I think you made a separation rate just as we asked.
Here in Mission Control, the Trajectory Operations Officer reports a good jettisoning of the container that houses the discarded fluid flow regulator unit removed earlier this morning from the Zarya module. While this is going on, Russian flight controllers reporting that the testing of the repositioned and reconnected CORS automated rendezvous antenna cables is underway to ensure good connectivity. Those CORS cables removed from the soon-to-be decommissioned Piers docking compartment and reconnected to temporarily to connectors on the transfer compartment on the Zvezda service module.
The tethers that were holding the container next to the EV hatch. Copy. I have one on me, and we're going to put one on the handrail next to the EV hatch. Copy.
I am next to the EV hatch.
Ну, мы тогда на СМ в районе 9-й платы все завершили с тобой.
So we are done with the plate number 9 on the service module. You may go towards MRM2. Yes, we are going to translate.
This is Mission Control Houston, just over 6 hours into today's spacewalk. Cosmonauts Oleg Novitskiy and Pyotr Dubrov are in the home stretch of this 6th spacewalk out of the International Space Station this year, the first for each of them in their careers, and the 238th in support of space station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades. The crew working efficiently outside replaced a fluid flow regulator panel on the Zarya module, discarding the old unit in a container that was jettisoned aft of the International Space Station earlier this morning. And then the two cosmonauts went to work in the final decommissioning of the Pirs docking compartment after 20 years of service to the station as a docking port and a spacewalking airlock. They retracted the Strela telescoping boom from the Pirs docking compartment and stowed it alongside the Poisk module, from which they exited the International Space Station at 12:53 a.m. Central Time this morning. The two cosmonauts demated a series of antenna cables from the Pirs docking compartment, reconnecting them temporarily to the Zvezda service module. Those cables associated with the Corps' automated rendezvous system. Those cables were retested in their new location by Russian flight controllers, and everything checked out normally. They will ultimately be rehooked up to the newly arrived Naoka multipurpose laboratory module once it arrives at the station later this year. The cosmonauts are in the process of removing a gap spanner between the Pirs spacewalking ladder and the Zvezda service module, and we'll stand by and see whether or not time will allow the two cosmonauts to install a series of payloads on the outside of the Poisk module before they complete the spacewalk.
So do I need to tighten it with a ratchet wrench, or is hand tightening enough? Mostly by hand and one.
So all of the hardware elements from the Pirs docking compartment that needed to be removed prior to its undocking and disposal later this year have been in fact removed and relocated or stowed. So the Pirs now is fully decommissioned and ready to be removed from the International Space Station by the ISS Progress 77 cargo ship later this year, after the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module is launched.
Okay, I have the first sample installed, but it's very close to unintelligible. EV1. I have secured test to large red and one transport tether. Sounds like a good plan. Copy. And we also have venously secured with a small from EV hatch 1. That's for EV1. Come again, Moscow. We did not copy your last.
Направление движения, как
So,
в самом начале выхода.
so your translation path should be the same as the one that you used at the beginning of your spacewalk. We copy.
Олег, когда
Oleg, when you pass
подкоса, идущий
under the strut that goes
ВЛ-2,
under the handrail of the EV hatch 2,
идет в сторону ПХО,
there in the direction of the PHO, there is a
на него ставится выносливость.
circular handrail, and that's where you need to install.
This is Mission Control Houston. 7 hours and counting now in the spacewalk this morning by Oleg Novitskiy and Pyotr Dubrov as they are about to make their way inside the Poisk airlock and will close the hatch shortly thereafter to wrap up today's excursion.
So it's not in the way?
The spacewalk began at 12:53 a.m. Central Time with the opening of the hatch to Poisk. The two cosmonauts made their way outside and made very efficient work throughout all of the tasks associated with this sixth spacewalk outside of the International Space Station this year. They replaced a fluid flow regulator panel on the Zarya module, discarded the old fluid flow regulator, which was put inside a airtight container and jettisoned manually aft of the International Space Station about midway through the spacewalk. Then they went to work in the final decommissioning of the Pirs docking compartment, retracting the Strela telescoping boom from Pirs and stowed it alongside the Poisk module. It will be used later on after the Nauka multipurpose laboratory module arrives at the International Space Station, taking the place of Pirs, which will undock from the Earth-facing port of the Russian segment of the International Space Station by the Progress 77 cargo ship, which will then use its engines to deorbit itself and Pirs into a fiery demise over the Pacific Ocean. The two cosmonauts demated a series of antenna cables associated with the Corps' automated rendezvous system from Pirs and stowed them, reattaching them to connector panels on the transfer compartment on the Zvezda service module. They checked out just fine in their temporary location and removed a gap spanner between the Pirs spacewalking ladder and the small diameter section at the forward end of the Zvezda service module. With that, all of the activities associated with the disconnection and dismantling of equipment for the Pirs docking compartment now complete, setting the stage for its undocking in July following the launch of Nauka on a Proton rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The two cosmonauts also installed a pair of payloads on the Poisk module, material science payload and a biological payload to test the rigors of the low Earth orbit environment on those particular materials and payloads.
On the top, yes, the one on the top.